puts up some like flashy games and whatnot.
Correct.
Like do you know who gets remembered in New York? Uh, like Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez and Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and Derek Jeter and Paul O'Neill and Eli Manning and
I,
Mike
I,
Strahan and
I'll
Justin.
give you.
It's guys who actually like have the guys who can walk around, who can go into any bar in New York and get a drink and are New York icons. It's all because of winning. There's a reason why.
But you could not win and have a championship attitude. And I'll give you an example of that, right?
Yep.
That I'm not a Mets fan. I'm a Yankee fan. But I have watched DeGrom give everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
he's a total.
The Mets haven't been great. The Mets haven't put the best teams on the field. Hopefully that changes this year, but I think they're going to go through some things like the Nets are going through. That happens whenever you just have super-powered, high-priced teams. But DeGrom, you cannot tell me that every time that man puts his toe on the rubber, pause. I don't know why I paused it. It sounded like that man didn't give everything to the fan base, to his craft, and most importantly, his team.
And by the way, and one thing to add to what you're saying, and then go right back, and that there is zero on his mind besides going 27 up, 27 down, and winning the game.
Right, because there's a difference between the person you are. See, when I go into my consultations and I'm working with a company, nobody gives a fuck all of the crazy conspiracy theories that I believe in, and I believe in some crazy stuff, right? I'm not saying anyone is wrong for believing some esoteric stuff. We have a government that we know lies to us. I understand why there's distrust, right?
Yep.
However, I cannot go in there and do my job and get paid all the money I get paid for knowing shit. And if I walk in there and I have the things that affect my life and only my life be more important than making these people more money through their technology. Like that, I don't understand. Like, that's why I have such a great respect for DeGrom, is because the Mets could be shit. They could be falling in the standings, and they could not score a run for him. And I've never seen that guy be defeatist. I've never seen that guy make an excuse. He fucking pitches it until his arm is about to fucking fall off. And New York loves that shit. I don't understand where we are in our, like, we have a lot of weird things happening with the Nets fan base. There's the New Jersey Nets fans that hates the the Brooklyn Nets fans. And they're saying their fans, including me, are not legitimate fans. So what does that mean for fans like you, Sam, who's not from New Jersey? Or fans like Matt, who's not from New Jersey but has always loved this team. Are you guys the real fans because the team originally started as the New York Nets? Are everybody else fake fans? Like, we just have all of this cumbersome concepts that distract us from what sports is about. And no one exemplifies that more than David DeGrom. Like, DeGrom goes out there and you never feel cheated.
Yep, perfectly said. You'd never feel cheated. It's true.
You understand what I'm saying? I don't understand what the heroin that's being fed to the masses that's making it all right right now, that we don't have clarity. But don't y'all feel cheated to a certain degree? And that's how I feel, not just towards any one player. It's how I feel about this era. and but the rehabilitation cannot be, Sam. It cannot be that we blame the person who built this fucking thing. We blame the person that took us out of the darkest period in our team's existence, where people were saying that the Brooklyn Nets were a failed experiment. Right? And that guy who took the job in the face of all of that bullshit somehow now is being scapegoated. Right? Because to me, Sean Marks is the DeGrom of general managers. Why am I wrong?
I'm 100% with you. And what I was going to add to it is I think that is exactly why. Look, if you were to rank right now who are the most important people in the franchise, right? Everyone that's involved. The most important person is Kevin Durant. And then to me, the second most important person is Sean Marks. And if you told me I had to choose between Sean Marks and Kyrie Irving, I'm picking Sean Marks 100 times out of 100. And people could listen to this and say that I'm out of my mind. I think you would make the same decision. I think Bam would make the same decision. And I think Clayton, who's in our group chat, would make the same decision also. Like,
there's no way. Let me explain something to you. Everyone could sit here and talk about, I sat courtside when fucking Donald Sloan was starting as, you know what I'm saying? I was the fool giving my money. And but I wanted my son to fall in love with basketball, and I wanted it to be something that we shared together in a really, really deep and special way. And I wanted to raise my girls on it. And I put my money where my mouth is. I wanted them to love the experience and ingrain it into them. And it was okay. But now the pain of that season, the pain of that era of basketball, the Lionel Hollins era, where I complained and bitched every single night on how shit and antiquated of a coach Lionel Hollins was. You mean to tell me now in this era, the man that saved us from that could potentially be scapegoated? Not only can any player not named Kevin Durant can go, but I'd be willing to if it meant Kyrie or Sean Marks. Are you listening to me, Sam? I'm going to say something very, very controversial.
Yep.
Right? I was ready to trade Kyrie from early in the season. He wasn't available. He's a dude that always gets hurt. I'm not running away from that. I would have took Ben for Kyrie. Straight up. Not even, that's a bad trade. I know it's a bad trade. You're not getting the talent. But even with all the greatness that we've seen from Kyrie and how good he is, I still don't think you could get much value for him. And if we can't see that as an organization and would still, because the day you fire Sean Marks, Sam, you know he's gonna either get the San Antonio job, he's gonna get they'll dump Pelinka real fast and get the Laker job. He will get any job in the NBA, and we will be GM'd by the people who thought giving DeAndre Jordan a $40 million contract made sense. Am I talking crazy, Sam?
No, look, there is nothing more important in sports right now than ever before than having a good man like Marks heading the ship. There's right. Just like we've all experienced it with different teams of ours. When you have a GM that is incompetent, you and Bam just went through this with Gettleman. There is nothing that is more paralyzing as a fan because right. That every move that the guy makes is utterly stupid. Correct. And besides having James Dolan as your owner, which maybe that's the only thing that's worse. But when you have a GM who's making the day-to-day decisions that are sending your franchise back, not days, not weeks, not months, not years, but even like half a decade, right. Whatever it is.
Right.
Like that there is nothing worse. And I mean, I think this idea that uh, I think there is a legitimate feeling within Nets fans, because I heard this because I've been in the spaces a little bit more recently. There is a sense that whoever the Nets pick, if Sean Marks leaves, will be some mini Sean Marks that's coming. That's not how, like, for people that like work. That's not how shit works. Like,
Right.
like Bob Iger can leave Disney. That doesn't mean that his little understudy is going to be Bob Iger. Like, that's not that's not how businesses work. There's something that's captivating about certain leaders and their vision and what they see and what they do. Like,
Like
it's just,
as great
I
of
mean,
a coach that's
you would know better than
Spoelstra.
anyone.
Yeah, no, as great of a coach as Spoelstra, and the Sean Marks blaming comes from the Sean Marks blaming comes from. I'm telling you, if you look at the people who are adamant about hating Steve Nash, right? They are. I would say. I would say you can't find a person that has a real problem with Steve Nash that also has a real problem with Kyrie and what he's doing. That, like, most people are going, it doesn't matter who fucking coaches this team if you have Kyrie and KD on the court. You just need someone who knows how to deal with superstar players and someone that they'll listen to.
Yep.
So job done, fine, right? The 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 new poison and the toxin coming out of that is, now that we've seen what the team looks like without James Harden, it's harder to blame them. So what's the next thing? Oh, the players weren't good enough. This team wasn't built deep enough. This team didn't have enough firepower. So it's Sean Marks' fault. Oh, he traded for Ben Simmons. Didn't he have a physical? Did they know about this injury? Does it matter? Does it matter? Considering what Sean Marks has done?
Also, by the way, for the whole physical thing, which, first of all, none of us know anything, and anyone who says they know something, that's something where you're not really going to get leaks about that.
But no, we've gotten some leaks. All of them have proven to be wrong. Thank God we didn't repeat them.
Yeah, no, that is true. But especially something on medicals, that's something where I'm not going to buy like some bullshit that comes through the grapevine like Nets fans seem to do. But look, when like what did you what once James Harden became such a cancer in the locker room, which that was like widely reported, and you could see it with the Nets players after the fact. It had gone so bad, and it was clear, and I'm sure that Daryl Morey to a certain extent knew that. The Nets lost a lot of leverage. So this idea that, like, well, Mark's fucked up because then he shouldn't have done the trade and whatnot, like, the can was kicked too far down the road at that point, clearly.
Right.
Like,
you can't let this dude Harden sabotage the rest of your season. Like, I think that trade, 5 years from now when we look back at it, if the team doesn't completely implode, I think 5 years from now we look at that trade and say, yo, that trade practically saved us, because we weren't even close on. Remember, we were getting blown out by teams like Dallas. We were getting killed with that original squad. Now Kevin Durant is getting rebounds from. Part of that 61-point outburst of Kyrie's and the 50-point outburst is because the team around him makes so much more sense now.
Yep.
It's the Sean Marks added building blocks, not under duress. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like, he wanted to do it. He wanted to try the original plan, or the second plan, which was, I got 3 superstars. If I put them all on the court, nobody could beat us, right? And that's what Sean Marks wanted to do. When he had to audible out of that, when he had to change that, I think it forced him, but he's made so many great decisions before that it allowed where you could fix this team with one trade, and I really think they do, and I'm always going to be grateful. And if we lose him, there will never be people will forget that the Knicks lost Riley. If you look at the Miami Heat, they're stable, they're